What if I told you that hitting 50,000 in savings doesn't just change your bank account balance, it rewires your brain? Imagine this. You log into your bank app one morning and see that magic number, $50,000, sitting quietly in your account. To anyone else, it might look like just another milestone, just another line of digits. But what if I told you that this single number creates a shift so powerful, it changes the way you think, act, and make decisions about money for the rest of your life? Most people think 50,000 is simply a stepping stone, a stop along the road to something bigger. Maybe a house, maybe retirement, maybe just more. But they're overlooking the truth. This number is not just financial, it's psychological. It's a metamorphosis, a transformation, the kind of shift that turns a caterpillar into a butterfly. Except this isn't about wings, it's about freedom. And freedom doesn't always announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it sneaks up on you the moment your savings cross a certain threshold. You wake up one day, and without even realizing it, the weight you've carried on your chest for years, the silent anxiety of living paycheck to paycheck, starts to lift. That knot in your stomach when you swipe your card, it begins to loosen. The dread of opening bills, it begins to fade. At $50,000, something profound happens. Money stops controlling you, and you start controlling it. Welcome to Mike Compound, the channel where finance becomes simple, clear, and deeply human. My name is Mike, and I create easy-to-understand videos about personal finance, investing, and money psychology so that anyone, no matter where they start, can begin building wealth without confusion or fear. If you've ever felt trapped in financial quicksand, if you've ever wondered why some people seem to build wealth effortlessly while others remain stuck, you're in the right place. Today, we're going to peel back the layers of this milestone. Why $50,000? Why does it matter so much more than $5,000 or even $20,000? What invisible line do you cross when you hit this number? By the end of this video, you'll see that $50,000 isn't just a figure in your savings account. It's a turning point in your life, a passport to a new financial identity, and the first real glimpse of what freedom tastes like. Let's be honest. At first glance, $50,000 can feel random, like someone just picked a number out of thin air. Why not $40,000? Why not $75,000? What makes this milestone so profound? The truth is, it's not about the math in your bank account. It's about the psychology in your brain. Think of it this way. When you only have $500 saved, every unexpected event is a catastrophe. A car repair, an emergency medical bill, even a delayed paycheck feels like a storm that could wreck your entire financial life. At that level, money is pure survival. It's food, rent, keeping the lights on. You're not thinking about growth or opportunity, you're thinking about getting through the week. Now jump to $5,000. Things feel a little lighter. You've got a cushion that could carry you for a month or two. It's progress. But here's the catch. Your brain still categorizes money as survival. You're still in a scarcity mindset, still cautious, still walking the financial tightrope. But at $50,000, something radical happens. The psychological security threshold is crossed. Suddenly, losing your job doesn't equal instant disaster. It becomes an inconvenience, not a crisis. Instead of panicking, you have the room to breathe, to think, to plan. And this mental shift changes everything. Think about the way your nervous system reacts. With no savings, your body is constantly on high alert, flooded with cortisol, bracing for the next emergency. But once you reach $50,000, it's like your body exhales for the first time in years. Stress levels drop, sleep improves, decisions stop coming from fear and start coming from confidence. And here's the crazy part. It doesn't even matter that $50,000 isn't rich. You're not a millionaire, you're not living on passive income, but the shift in your mind makes you feel richer than you've ever been. It's not the number itself, it's the transformation it unlocks. This is the first glimpse of what I like to call the financial metamorphosis, because just like a butterfly doesn't crawl anymore, you stop crawling through your financial life. You stop counting every dollar, stop flinching at every bill. Instead, you begin to make decisions from a place of abundance. And when you think in abundance, you don't just survive, you start to thrive. That's why $50,000 is more than digits on a screen. It's a psychological passport into a new chapter of your financial story. And the deeper you go into this milestone, the more you realize it's not about money at all. It's about freedom, clarity, and identity. Before you hit $50,000, money feels like a shadow that follows you everywhere. It dictates what you can and cannot do. It controls your choices in ways you might not even notice. Psychologists call this phenomenon your locus of control. Basically, whether you believe you have power over your life or whether external forces dictate your path. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, your locus of control belongs to money. You wake up, check your balance, and feel that familiar knot in your stomach. Before heading to the grocery store, you're already doing silent math in your head, wondering if you can afford everything in your cart. Bills pile up like unopened letters because you're scared of what's inside. Every decision is filtered through fear. Can I afford this? What if something goes wrong? But when you cross the 50,000 threshold, something flips. Suddenly, the control shifts back to you. Money becomes your tool, not your master. This isn't just motivational fluff. Studies show that people with substantial savings experience significantly lower levels of stress, better sleep quality, and even measurable improvements in their health. Imagine your nervous system, after years of holding its breath, finally exhaling. That background hum of anxiety? It quiets down. Now let's talk about the security threshold. This is the point where your brain stops perceiving money as a fragile lifeline and starts seeing it as a foundation. At $500, a lost job equals panic. At $1,000, you buy yourself some time, but fear lingers. At $50,000, the script changes. Job loss or a big unexpected bill becomes manageable, even strategic. Instead of asking, how do I survive this? You begin asking, what's my next move? That's the secret of this milestone. It doesn't just give you dollars, it gives you options. And options are the currency of true freedom. You stop making choices out of desperation and start making them out of intention. You're no longer cornered by your circumstances, you're guided by your goals. Even if you don't feel wealthy compared to millionaires, your brain interprets this cushion as abundance. And abundance changes the way you walk through life. You negotiate harder at work because you're not afraid to walk away. You explore new opportunities because you're not terrified of failure. You carry yourself differently because deep down, you know, you're not trapped anymore. That's the magic of the $51 threshold. It's less about what you have and more about what you become. Here's where the story gets even more fascinating. When you cross $50,000, you don't just gain financial security. You trigger something I like to call the confidence cascade. Think of it as a domino effect where one change in your financial psychology sets off a chain reaction across every part of your life. Let's start with decision-making. Before this milestone, every choice feels like life or death. Should you ask for a raise? Should you take that class to improve your skills? Should you invest in the stock market? Fear whispers in your ear, what if I fail? What if I lose everything? With no safety net, even small risks feel unbearable. But with $50,000 behind you, the fear loses its grip. Suddenly, you negotiate harder at work, not because you're arrogant, but because you're no longer desperate. If they say no, you know you'll be fine. That freedom to walk away makes you stronger, and ironically, it often gets you the yes you were too scared to chase before. It doesn't stop there. You begin to take calculated risks. Maybe you try a side hustle, invest more consistently, or switch careers for a better opportunity. You're no longer gambling your survival. You're investing from a place of stability. This creates a positive loop. More confidence leads to smarter risks. Smarter risks lead to more growth, and more growth reinforces your confidence. Think about sleep. Sounds simple, right? But when you're constantly worrying about bills, sleep is fractured and shallow. At $50,000, you sleep better. Better rest means clearer thinking. Clearer thinking means better financial decisions. Better decisions mean more wealth. The loop keeps spinning, and each turn accelerates your progress. That's the beauty of the confidence cascade. It's self-sustaining. The momentum feeds itself, creating a new normal where progress doesn't feel like an uphill battle anymore. You're not dragging yourself out of quicksand. You're climbing a staircase, one step at a time, each one easier than the last. And here's the kicker. The cascade doesn't just change you. It changes how others see you. Friends, colleagues, even family notice the quiet confidence in the way you carry yourself. You're no longer the person weighed down by constant financial stress. You're the one making deliberate moves, exuding control, inspiring others, whether you realize it or not. That's why this milestone is so transformative. It doesn't just fatten your bank account, it rewires your psychology, sparks a chain reaction, and sets you on a trajectory where every decision compounds into something bigger. Now let's pause for a moment, because as incredible as this milestone is, it comes with a hidden danger, what I call the 50,000 trap. And trust me, this trap has quietly destroyed more financial futures than stock market crashes or surprise medical bills ever could. Here's how it works. You've spent years clawing your way to this number. You've been disciplined, consistent, careful. And then one day you finally see it, 50,000 sitting neatly in your savings account. At first it feels like triumph, relief, victory. But then something sneaky happens. Your brain, which has been operating in scarcity mode for so long, suddenly interprets this milestone as permission to relax, to indulge, to celebrate. And so begins the slide. A few lifestyle upgrades here, a few splurges there. Maybe you upgrade your car, maybe you move into a nicer apartment, maybe you start dining out more because you feel like you've earned it. And to be fair, you have earned it. But if you're not careful, those little upgrades snowball. Before you know it, the 50,000 you worked so hard to build begins to evaporate, one swipe at a time. That's the trap, mistaking the milestone for the destination, when in reality, $50,000 is not the finish line, it's the starting line. This is where the real wealth-building game begins. Because once you have that foundation, your relationship with investing changes dramatically. Before, investing felt terrifying, like gambling with money you couldn't afford to lose. Every dollar felt tied to your survival, so risk was unbearable. But now, with your safety net secure, you can finally approach investing with clarity instead of fear. Market dips stop feeling like disasters and start looking like opportunities. Volatility doesn't scare you anymore. It excites you. Because you understand that when prices fall, you're not watching your world collapse. You're witnessing a sale. You've built the stomach for investing, the psychological resilience to hold steady when everyone else is panicking. And here's where the math gets fun. At $5,000, a 5% annual return gives you $250, not life-changing. At $50,000, the same 5% generates $10,500 in passive income. Suddenly, compound interest isn't just a concept you read about in personal finance books. It's real. You can see it. You can feel it. You're no longer theorizing about wealth, you're experiencing it. That's why this milestone is both powerful and dangerous. Powerful because it transforms your psychology. Dangerous because if you misinterpret it, you risk falling into the trap of complacency. The challenge is simple. Don't stop here. Don't confuse a checkpoint for a destination, because the journey, the real journey, has just begun. Here's something most people don't realize about the 50-match milestone. It's not actually about the money. It's about you. Who you had to become in order to save that much, and who you'll continue becoming as you grow beyond it. Think about it. To accumulate $50,000 on an average income takes years of consistent effort. You had to say no more times than you can count, to dinners out, to impulse purchases, to the latest gadgets. You had to build the discipline to save through market downturns, job transitions, and life's unexpected emergencies. That's not just willpower. That's identity-shaping behavior. By the time you reach this milestone, you're no longer the same person who started with zero. You've built what psychologists call delayed gratification on steroids. You've trained your brain to find joy in watching numbers grow instead of watching possessions pile up. You've rewired your dopamine system to reward patience, not impulse. And this isn't just a financial skill, it's a life skill. This transformation spills over into your career as well. With 50,000 behind you, you carry yourself differently in the workplace. You're not clinging to a toxic job out of desperation. You're negotiating raises with quiet confidence, knowing you have options. That knowledge, that sense of agency, is priceless. It gives you the power to walk away from situations that don't serve you, to pursue opportunities that excite you, to take risks that align with your long-term vision. It's what psychologists call agency, the belief that you're not trapped by your circumstances but capable of shaping them. This agency radiates in subtle but unmistakable ways. You're no longer driven by fear of scarcity. Instead, you're pulled forward by vision, by possibility, by growth. Picture this. Two people face the same career crossroads. One is paycheck to paycheck, terrified of losing income. The other has 50,000 in the bank. The first person stays stuck, clinging to stability even if it's misery. The second person takes a leap, whether that's starting a business, switching fields, or returning to school. The difference isn't talent or luck, it's the freedom that comes with financial agency. That's the hidden power of this milestone. It's not the interest you earn on your savings, it's the courage you earn in your soul. It's the quiet assurance that you can handle life's curveballs, that you can choose your path instead of being pushed down one. And when you realize that, $50,000 stops being just a number. It becomes proof of who you've become. Here's where the shift gets even more powerful. Once you've crossed the $50,000 mark, your mindset about money evolves in ways that might surprise you. You stop obsessing over cutting costs, and instead, you start focusing on maximizing income. Think about it. There's only so much you can save by skipping lattes or canceling subscriptions. Cutting expenses is like dieting. You can only shrink so much before you're starving. But increasing income? That's like building muscle. There's virtually no ceiling, and once you feel secure, your brain unlocks the creativity to chase opportunities you would have once ignored. That side hustle you dismissed before suddenly looks manageable because you're not gambling your grocery money. That $3,000 certification you thought was impossible becomes an investment instead of a burden. You start seeing money not just as something to guard, but as something to leverage. This also unlocks what I call strategic patience. Before $50,000, every financial decision feels urgent. You need results now because you're always on the edge of survival. But once you hit this milestone, the urgency fades. You can afford to think long-term. You can invest in yourself, your career, your skills, things that might not pay off tomorrow but could transform your life 5 years from now. And here's something fascinating researchers have discovered. People who cross significant savings thresholds begin to influence others around them. I call it financial contagion, but in the best way possible. Your new mindset doesn't stay locked inside you. Friends start noticing. You're the one suggesting cooking at home instead of going out every weekend. You're the one proposing vacations that everyone can actually afford. Without even trying, you become an example of what financial confidence looks like. And confidence is contagious. People see the way you carry yourself, the calm in your decisions, the lack of panic, the subtle but steady growth, and it inspires them. You may not realize it, but you're giving others permission to believe they can do it too. This is where wealth stops being just personal. It becomes social. Your habits ripple outward, shaping your relationships, your family, your community. At $50,000, you're not just securing yourself, you're planting seeds of financial change in everyone around you. And that ripple effect might just be one of the most powerful parts of this entire journey. Here's something almost nobody talks about: the strange and sometimes uncomfortable side effects of hitting $50,000 in savings. One of them is what I call wealth paranoia, and believe it or not, it's actually a good thing. When you've built something meaningful, your brain flips into protective mode. You start reading the fine print on contracts you used to skim. You look twice at can't-miss investment opportunities. You no longer fall for get-rich-quick schemes because you understand just how hard it was to earn and protect what you have. This paranoia isn't weakness, it's armor. It's your brain saying, I have something valuable now and I refuse to lose it carelessly. Another profound change comes in how you perceive time. When you're broke, you live in what psychologists call present bias. You're forced to focus only on today's needs because tomorrow feels uncertain. But at $50,000, you gain temporal flexibility, the ability to think in years and decades instead of weeks and months. Suddenly, you're not just paying bills, you're building a future. That gym membership isn't an indulgence anymore, it's an investment in your health. That boring, stable job, it's a stepping stone, not a prison sentence. Your spending psychology evolves too. Ironically, the more money you save, the less recklessly you spend. Why? Because you know what it took to get here. $100 dinner doesn't just cost $100 anymore. It costs you the opportunity to put that money towards something that truly matters. You develop what I call expensive taste in what matters and cheap taste in everything else. You become intentional. Experiences that align with your values, worth it. Flashy distractions, not even tempting. And let's not forget the social dynamics. Some friends will cheer you on, genuinely happy for your progress. Others may grow resentful or make passive-aggressive comments. Family members might start asking for advice or for help. Navigating these shifts isn't always easy, but here's the truth. Your financial stability doesn't take away from anyone else. In fact, it frees you from being a burden. It allows you to contribute, to inspire, to lead by example. So what's the real lesson here? $50,000 isn't just a number on a screen. It's a psychological passport to freedom. It changes how you see money, how you see risk, how you see yourself. It transforms your identity, your choices, your future. If you're still on your journey toward this milestone, remember, the true magic isn't in the destination, it's in who you become along the way. And when you finally cross that threshold, you'll realize you weren't just saving money. You were building freedom, one disciplined decision at a time.